So I'm not sure what you guys are here to expect, or what you think this is, or what you think it's not. But it's probably a not. If you want to err on one side of the equation, it's a not this, not that. And you'll be safer than something. And some things are what cause all our problems, you see. And in the I am not this, I am not that, we can find a rest. It's the I that's causing us our suffering, our difficulties, and the instigator of almost all our pain. And the sooner we realise that, if we haven't realised it already, the better our life can be. As freedom hides before the I. Peace hides before the I. Not in knowledge, accumulation of data, conquests, etc., etc. And they may say I'm very boring, but I can experientially let you know that it's the most wonderful thing I've ever found. And I'd had a pretty good life, lots of suffering too, but a lot of things went right as well. And even the things that went right are not even anywhere near the scale of what freedom feels like. And when that's found, there's also no preference, you see. I don't have a preference for how I feel. And in that non-preference, you tend to feel a lot better. Life's a lot happier, more peaceful, and you get to see more. The moment becomes very special because, I'm sitting here, but I'm catching the wind blowing in the trees in the windows, and the movement in the room, and the guy up the back moving, and the whole thing comes alive. Everything comes alive all of a sudden. If you've watched the old Wizard of Oz movie, the old one, and they're in black and white, the first start of the movie, and then she goes down the rabbit hole and it all goes technicolor. It's a little bit like that. So when that happens, or you get close to that happening, there's a lot of the things that you thought were important and valuable start to become very unprecious very quickly. And life simplifies. You can earn a lot less money because you don't need to be entertained all the time. You don't need to be accumulating things all the time. And life becomes much simpler and much more beautiful, and your relationships flourish more. Some end, some flourish. And life's just a different way. So the way I explained it a little bit is like it's a different operating system that you find. And from the tradition I'm from, and the Toltec tradition, the original tradition, it's the first attention is the attention of mind and thought, and I am me, I am this, I am that. The second attention is when your mind goes quiet and the world stops. They call it stopping the world. And it's here now. It's here now. And it's always just here now. That's the second attention. So you could call that the second operating system, or a different operating system, the original operating system. And then prior to that is another attention that's without any attributes whatsoever. The third attention. So first we have to recognise that there's a first, second and third attention, and then recognise we're either in the first or the second, or if we're having a good run, we're in the third. And in that third one, there is no I whatsoever. It's gone now. Or it may stick its head up occasionally, but it'll be seen immediately by the witness, and it will drop again. It will rise and it will drop again, rise and drop again. At some point it stops trying to get up. At some point it stops trying to get up. And contrary to popular belief and propagation of many teachings I see out there, there's some upheavals that happen. There's some difficulty that happens. There's some rough rides. There's some rough days. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. The pain body is real. It exists. And if you're doing yoga or you're doing whatever, you'll experience that. Hips start releasing, you'll know about it, etc., etc. That's a part of the process too. But if you're in the witness state and you're behind it, it's okay. No drama, no problem. There's no one there to worry about it. You're watching like a scientist working on his patient, or a doctor working on his patients, or a scientist in the lab. They're just interested in what's actually happening. The truth, just the reality of what's happening. So it's reality that I'm talking about. Forget about spirituality. That's only a word that we use because everybody left reality at some point. So then we had to create a word called spirituality to come back to reality. If nobody had left in the first place, there'd be no spirituality. So this is reality. And that's here now. There's no time. Time's a figment of thought. As far as we can tell, only generated by mankind, as far as we can tell, at this stage. We're waiting for the aliens to come. Maybe they're doing it too, I don't know. Until then, we're the only ones doing it. And it creates a tamasic energy, which creates a fog and fills our pain body up. And we go blind, we get filters. We're wearing glasses and we don't know. So this is ripping the filters off. That's what this work is. It's not reaching for so-called heavens, it's being here with what is here now. And looking inwards instead of up all the time. It's in here. Yeah. It's pretty simple. It's just we're complicated, you see. We've become complicated, and we're taught to be complicated. We're taught the more complicated you are and the more sophisticated you are, the better your life is going to be, and the more successful your life's going to be, and the more you can accumulate, and the more popular you'll be. It's a false teaching. It's a societal teaching. And it's no problem having education, etc. I'm just saying it usually leads to suffering, and the reward isn't there. The reward can be there, but it's a booby prize, really. It's a participation award set by our elders. And so luckily, thankfully, I talked about a side door, you know. You got, he didn't say this, but a metaphor is, you know, we're on an express train from birth to death. And that's the whole idea, is you get born, you do everything right, you die, life hopefully goes really well, and it's supposed to go really well, and if things go wrong, that's terrible, we don't want that. But of course, things are going to go wrong. But we resist it. But there's a side exit, there's a side door off that life-death train. And it's attainable by humans. And actually some plants, trees, and some ground. It's not just humans that can hold this different energy field. Where I live in Yellingup, I found one on the property. It was extremely rare and quite the coincidence, because I wasn't really into this work when I bought the property, but there it was. There it is. And the trees that are growing in it are also holding that energy field now too, so it's quite a beautiful little space. So that happens too. So it's your birthright. You have to understand there's no specialness in it. The specialness is actually keeping you from it. Any ideas of specialness or unspecialness is pulling you away. This is actually coming back to complete ordinariness and simplicity. And being okay with that, completely okay with that, even if you're rejected and not liked for it, or your popularity takes a dive and your self-worth gets hurt for a little while. But it's about being ordinary and coming back into your heart space completely. Stop trying to be somebody. Just give up that. So the way I work is to find the obstacles in the way. Really, you are that you seek, if you are indeed seeking here. I'm not sure what everybody's intent in being here is, but if your intent is freedom and truth, freedom from the suffering of I, the facts are you are what you seek already. Okay? You already are. You're born that way, and that doesn't change. What's happened is we've been programmed to think otherwise and become somebody, and we're rewarded for being somebody. Yes, by our parents, our family, our neighbours, our culture. for being a certain way, and then we get locked into this frame. But really, your original birthright, like a small child, is like returning to a small child when they're still in wonder and they haven't been impregnated with language yet and cultural preferences. So it really is returning back to something you already were and staying there, but you bring your intelligence with you, and wisdom will come with you. So to have these big fantastical, which is very popular these days because it sells well, to have these big fantastical euphoric dream states, I mean, you're going to have euphoria in all those things, but if that's your goal, it's kind of a misguided goal. It's just coming back to what you are. Okay? Sounds easy. I can let you know it's a little bit challenging. Again, we're complicated, and it's been put together over a long period of time, and that's okay. The reason, one of the main reasons that's okay, is that there's absolutely zero effort wasted. Any effort you put into this true intent for truth is not wasted. Your life will improve. So you may not have enlightenment, to use that word if I may, but you will have a deeper understanding and experience of the world. And who secretly doesn't want that? No? Anybody? Who wants to be ignorant, right? Oh no, I want more ignorance, please. You know, the old Monty Python sketch, you know. Freedom or hanging, or, you know, or crucifixion. I'll take crucifixion. We don't want that, right? Everybody secretly wants freedom. Yes. What is the freedom? It's expanding your awareness. It's higher consciousness. So our work is, or the way I do it is removing the obstacles instead of, say, just meditating or just doing yoga or whatever formula you have, is going and hunting the obstacles. So it's a hunting warrior's path, really. It's an inner warrior, and that's going and finding where all your triggers and where your hidden stuff is, and sitting with it and being with it and bringing it to the room. And in the room it can heal, in the energy it can heal. And this energy is like ballast in a ship. It stabilizes you so you can go deeper and you can stay stable deeper. And then that new depth becomes your new home. And then you may notice little other depths, and it's a little hole down there, and you go and spend time there, and that widens out, and that becomes your new home. But when I point over there, it's coming in, yeah. Is it making sense, or is it just... Okay. Yes. And so my cultural background is Australian, and I grew up in the northwest, so it's fairly straight. I'm an engineer, so I like things working, and they're not just something weird sitting on the side of an engine with a unicorn hat on. You know, it's like it works or it doesn't. It needs to be there or it doesn't. You know, and what's the most efficient way to make that work? And that's how I sort of do this work. It works, or I don't teach it, or I don't share it. And it's tested and proven. Out of hundreds of things, I've narrowed it right down to what works the fastest, and that's the way we work. What I think works fastest, and that may update, but so far so good. We'll see. Yeah. But a lot of it's from this guy, and this tradition's over 10,000 years old. It predates Buddhism by thousands of years, so it's not new. And they call this the fifth cycle of man. And actually, as of 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, I discovered that the man I thought died in the 70s and 80s is actually still alive. He's 111 now and still teaching. So I'm going to go see him next week. Say hello. That's a very nice discovery. Yeah. Bit of a flight, other side of the world, but that's okay. It's not a man, it's just the emptiness, really. There's nothing to ask, it's just to go and pay respects and say hello. So, all being said, does there anyone have any questions or anything? So, anything you'd like to know?
I have a question on the reader. How to not close when there is fear or emotion?
Practice. It's first there has to be a dispelling of ignorance that it's even a good idea to do. That it's a good idea to not live that way. First has to be the dispelling of the ignorance that this is just how I am, because a lot of people are going through the world, and I was doing that when I was young. It's like, that's how I am, that's how I was made, that's how it is. First has to be the knowledge that we're adaptable and changeable, and these patterns are just given to us. That has to be first. And then we're going to need a willingness or a fuel. Okay, the knowledge, and then the fuel. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to do that? And that might be worth checking it just in case. Yeah. And why would I do that? Right? I really want to be free. Okay, and then you've got motivation. All right, now how do I do that? What's the best way to do that? All right. And for a lot of people early on in this, and right the way through to advanced pretty much, is movement, I've found, especially in the West, where we're trained to be heady and think all the time and think our way through everything, compress everything into a tiny little portal and try and look through that little telescope and work out the secrets of the universe through a telescope, looking at a spot on the wall. Better to shake and move and use cold water and whatever techniques we find to work for us the best, whichever that is. We don't have to go through all that right now. But and use Rajas to loosen up, and then if we want to meditate after that, because we're quite heady. A lot of other cultures are, a little bit quieter than us, because we're trained to be noisy. We're trained to, this whole awakening thing is, or this silence thing, what's one of the Catholic phrases, correct me if I'm wrong, it's like an empty mind's the devil's playground, right? In Eastern cultures, a silent mind's a high attainment. Right? So we're trained for noise from birth. And so we have to recognise that and act accordingly. We can't go imitate a lot of the Eastern traditions. We have to acknowledge this and work our way to a quieter state. Then we'll have success. And that's where a lot of people fail. They're not ready, and they sit down and meditate and get disheartened and leave and quit and go back down the pub or whatever else. Go for another holiday. So when you're not successful, you lose your fuel, you lose your willingness, you see. And so it's important to make sure that what we're doing is functional and is working, and then we get a feedback loop of positivity that encourages us to keep proceeding, because it can get hard at times. Yeah? And then we also work at a sustainable pace. Don't be in too much of a hurry, because that's the ego in a hurry. You're just pushing you away from truth. Now you're somebody doing something. So it's trying to stay in the zone, so to speak, in the pocket. And surfing, we say in the pocket. Stay in the right spot. And know that it can be challenging. And know that dealing with other inners is challenging. Acknowledge it, it's okay. And in our resistance, it makes it harder, you see. So also knowing the less resistance I have, the happier I'm going to be. Resistance is suffering, is the bottom line. Humans have a mastery of resistance, you see. Everyone's got a mastery of resistance, almost everybody. We have to untangle that one. All good?
All good.
You attention seeking? Does that make sense, or anything off that? Anyone? You're welcome to ask questions off that if you hey, that doesn't make sense. You're full of it. It's okay. We'll check it out and see what we've got to say. Okay.
What is the difference, or what does it mean to be a true seeker?
Ooh. Well, you honour what you've been given, really, and what you've been given is 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you listen twice as much, if not more, and you do speak, and you try and hear everything at its deepest level. When your hearing is a full body thing, first it may just start hearing what's being said in real time. Then expanding that hearing and that receptivity deeper and deeper until it gets wider and wider, and then it's a full body receptivity where your body really is an incredible instrument, a very sensitive instrument. It's just being blocked by Thomas energy and thoughts and dreaming. But just like animals, you know, dog trainers always say it's not the dog, it's the owner. Because the owner's in anxiety and stress and fear, and the dog's just reading that, panicking and behaving oddly because the owner's feeding it that message. It's not safe right now, right? And it's fairly universal with all dog trainers. Because why? Because the dogs can feel, and that's their language. They can read each other. They can read who's dangerous and who's not. A little bit of body language too, right? Or things are wrong, things are right. And so it's like that. That's a receptivity, isn't it? And that's something humans have lost, but we all have that availability. It's just that we've lost it. So the receptivity just keeps going and going and going until you start to feel everything and everyone. And that becomes normalised. So that's a part of the second attention, third attention sort of thing. It's the sensitivity. Some people are naturally that way. A lot of introverts can be that way. And that's why a lot of the reason they retreat a lot is because of that sensitivity without realising it. I was that way, I didn't realise it. And I'd grown up in a very Yang culture. I was in the Northwest, so it was very confusing. And so, yeah, but then, you know, at some point something clicked and it became extremely sensitive, like you retreat now, sensitive for a few months. Okay. It was too much, but not too much. I mean, as in too much to be in groups of people for a little while. But that stabilised over time. And that's essentially just your pain body still present all through your system. And so there's interactions going on all the time. Everyone's carrying different things, so the signal was rubbing on what I still had in my system. So as that emptied out, that got easier and easier and easier and better to deal with, and I could re-enter society a bit more. And I didn't want to be in society for a while. I didn't want to talk for quite a while, or speak, or do all these mannerism things I've relearned. Blinking. Don't forget to blink. Blink, blink. You're freaking people out. Yeah. You relearn all that. There's a fear, yeah. I think I covered it. Read it again.
What does it mean to be a true seeker?
So that's the receptivity side of it. It really is receptivity. So, you know, quite often I get people come to me and they say, oh, tell me what's wrong with me, tell me what's going on. And you tell them and they freak out and attack you. So that's lacking receptivity. So we can often imagine we have receptivity, and we usually overestimate our receptivity is what I discovered. Right? So we have to be, you know, maybe be aware of that going into situations, and in the world that you might be overestimating your receptivity, and that's how we work. You know, we quite often overestimate ourselves. And so it's approaching that right, or how can I hear this deeper? How can I feel this deeper? How can I see this space deeper? And it's just this constant opening. It's a witnessing, really. What I'm discussing here is a witnessing. So if you haven't heard that word before, it's like you're aware of the situation and your movement through it. And there's an awareness of it. And you're not it, if I'm making sense now. For example, you're not the thoughts and the emotions. You're what's aware of them. So when you say, I feel sad, okay, something is aware of sadness. You're not the sadness. Something is aware of it. We say it in our language all the time, but people aren't connecting the dot here. You don't say, I'm sadness. Or I'm anger. You say, isn't it? I'm angry now. Or, make sense? Doesn't mean you're it. You've already said it in your language. But are people truly acknowledging that, seeing that? So that I is not a separate personal thing. Ultimately, that I, you could, in the process of this evolution, you start to see that I is not a separate person. That I is actually the witness. Does that make sense? And so a real seeker wants to remain the witness, and truly wants to remain the witness, and wants to be free, and has an awareness the I is not real, but really wants to do something about it. And a true seeker will die trying. It's it's at all costs, and that's very, very, very rare. But they can wake up. They can break through. I was like that. It's die or this will die. I didn't care. I'd had enough of the bullshit of who I thought I was. I'd had enough. I'd seen through it enough. Mm. Yes.
You mentioned just earlier about having to relearn mannerisms.
Mm.
Do you feel like you got to a stage where speaking felt unnecessary?
Oh yeah. That's exactly what happened. But like even sitting here like this, and then just even the movement of a finger was like, oh, there's a tiny bit of ego in that. No, really, it's just so still what we are. That you could just see the mechanics of everything, and well, it appeared you could see the mechanics of everything. Well, it's a big statement, of course. So, but movement was just seen as unnecessary at all. Yeah, and ultimately it is unnecessary because there's no birth and no death. We are that. And this is just a transient state. So, is the movement essential? No. Is it fun? Yeah, it can be fun. So why not? And I was encouraged to share, and for a while there I thought, well, I don't have to be sharing. I can just disappear and go hide out somewhere, and the energy field still happens, so I can do it like that. And still, there's still a mark left because you do want to go into service and you do want to help, and that really is strong. And then, but dealing with people was like, gosh, I was pretty introverted. I was never a social butterfly, you know what I mean? It was very hard. So this is kind of ridiculous from that viewpoint, honestly. Absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, he just started sharing, or it just sort of happened spontaneously. He came to bang some nails at my house and fix some things, and we were talking, and he had some friends, and I had some old friends that had seen transitions in me, big shifts, and they're not here right now, and they came along as well, and it just started happening spontaneously, really. I was minding my own business. You know what I mean? Just to working a job. I used to work engineering on boats, and but he was curious, and so we kept talking, and he grew from there. Then his girlfriend came, and then her friend came, and I can't remember the sequence, and this person came, and it came more and more, didn't it? These guys came, they were kirtan singers, and friends, it just spontaneously happened. Here we are, in this little chapter of it. Yeah. Mm.
You spoke of the energy field on your property in the Yellow Path.
Mm.
How do you recognise that, and what sort of identifying features, and also what do you do in that space that gives you, how do you utilise that energy?
Well, I was just out the back of the property one day, and I walked between these two curry trees. I'd planted a bunch of trees like 20 years ago, now they're giants now. They just grow so quick, they're like never-ending weeds. And I just walked between them one day, and I got dizzy and almost fell over. And I didn't know, it was just walking along, and went really spaciousness, and just fell over. And not fell over, but almost had to catch myself. And what was that? Is there something wrong? But it was just like a wide space, and so I just stood there for a while, and I could just sense, check the trees. I walked between after a few minutes. I went, oh my gosh, that tree's really strong, I could feel it. And then this next tree next to it as well. I'm going, what's going on here? This is strange. And then I sort of scanned around. I have this ability to feel things, and then there's another tree, so two trees here and here, and then one over where that door is roughly, and that one was the same, so all three of them, so it's like a triangle. And I planted them years ago. They were little saplings this big, and now they're like incredibly big trees. And so I realised it was three trees. I'm going, that's really odd, there's three of them, and I was nutting that out for a while. Couldn't work that out. You realise, oh, it's the ground they're planted in. The ground's empty. The ground's the nihil or the void. And so that was that. And then it was just helpful for others, and people would spend time there, and we ended up starting to do some, hanging out there a bit, and sometimes I'll hang out with my friends there. And it's just nice, easy space. It takes a lot of the work off me because, I deal with a lot of tamasic energy in this work, and so it helps take the load off. So it kind of doubles the power of the meeting or the hangout in a way, because it does a lot of the clearing, and then I can just focus on the other work, A lot of this work's in the substratum, yeah. So it's almost a shadow of that. Yeah. So I just and I bought that land in '98, and I was married with kids, living the life and reading Buddhism and reading this and reading that, and reading some of this work, and it wasn't really high on the agenda. But I'm saying, like, when you really, what it really boils down to is this is all just happening exactly how it's supposed to. And I've got nothing to do with it as a being here. It's all just happening as this thing here. Does that make sense? How else can you explain this? Like, it's pretty rare for these spaces. Yeah, you don't. It's not linearly explainable. It's because the second and third attentions are not linear. Time's not a factor. And lots of things happen like that, but that's how everything is. But that becomes revealed. People get all excited about it, but really that's just how it is. It's all very symbiotic, flow of that. So it's wise not to get too caught up in all that either. Just don't get caught up in all the details, yeah. I mean, people are going, 3 4s, 3 3s, what does that mean? And they're running around in their head worrying about all that. Well, you can let that go too, because that's just how it is. And the deeper you go, the more that's obvious. And you don't want to be trying to self-generate hunting something with the mind. Let go of that too. They're all traps, see? Mind traps, yeah.
Can you share a bit more about your life path and what made you experience this freedom?
I was seeking really. I'd retreated from the world, actually. I just realised every time what was happening for me, anyway, every time I spoke to somebody, nobody was interested in what I was saying, and they were just waiting for me to stop so they could tell me about themselves. And I realised I was doing the same thing. I was going, well, this is stupid. I don't see the point of this. I'm just going to retreat. It was no one was listening to each other, and so it just didn't make sense anymore. And that was just the way it was for me at that time. And I heard of somebody holding the space, and I went and spent time with them, and in that energy. But I was going to them part time. Like, I'd be working 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, so I'd go up there and spend time with them and then go back to work. So I was part-time coming in and out, but I started to really open up, and I used their energy field, but I got some great teachings from them and some understandings of some stuff in my way, but I really kind of stuck behind the scenes to the original teachings they had, because I knew how powerful they were. And just let the energy field do its thing, and just kept working inwards and going inwards and going inwards, and just popped open. Yeah. Yeah. So the field is very helpful in stabilising, and that fire can light another fire. Yeah, which is a good theme right now, I guess, with what's happening in LA. But yeah, it's like that, and it's a real thing. And the Vedas talk about that. It's pretty common knowledge that. Passing of the lamp, many names for it, but it's a very important factor in the process, or enhances the chances infinitely, really. Massive difference, yeah. Yes?
So, how can we make our presence or witnessing stronger? Every time I remind myself, I can witness what's happening, but then I forget, then I come again, then I forget, then I come again. And sometimes I just say, oh no, it's too much effort, just leave it, enjoy the life.
Yeah.
And then I got caught up in the life's drama. And then again, suffering, again I have now awareness is the key. But is this cycle kind of keep repeating?
Yeah,
So
it's
how
common,
to
yeah.
intensify this witnessing?
Yeah. First off, is it has to be willingness. Your willingness has to be strong. The stronger the willingness and the desire for truth. Just have one desire, freedom, and hunt all the rest of your desires out as best you can. There'll be some that you don't want to hunt till later on, but hunt the ones you can hunt. Okay, and work out what the desires are, and also one of the powerful teachings to try and build that fuel and that willingness is like all these things that are distracting you. Like, okay, say you meet a guy, or let's say you want to buy a house somewhere, or you want to meet a guy and settle down, and that's all great, fine. But just have the recognition, it's a great thing. You have kids and blah, blah, no problem. But the recognition is that everything goes absolutely perfectly. It's the best I can possibly imagine, right? And then that's the same every single day for the rest of my life. Will it still be wonderful? Like an easy example is someone buys a new car. And it's like, oh, this feels so good for a couple of days, right? 3 days, a week, a month maybe. Then it's just a normal car. The Lamborghini's normal now, right? It's the same. So one of the things, it's the extremes of things, which is what I used to do a lot. And I was doing that when I was young. It's like, if this goes absolutely perfectly, how long will it be? Will it stay that way, indefinitely, or will it stop at some point? And then if it's going to stop at some point, what do I do then? And what I would discover is I achieved what I was looking for sometimes. So I was very single focused. I had a curse of being over single focused, which came in handy for this, but really killed me on everything else. So I got to those endpoints a lot and discovered that there was nothing there. It was like, oh, that's it. Do you know what I mean? But a lot of people, because they don't have that single pointedness or that intensity, they never get to see that properly. But I got to see that properly. Do you know what I mean? And so when you half do things, you don't know if the result's going to be what you thought it was going to be or not at its best level. And so I got to see that a lot. So I keep, and some of the things were just multi-year adventures to attain them, really. And each time I got there, it was like, there was still me there with all my pain and difficulties and my way of seeing the world and my awkwardness and whatever else. Do you know what I mean? I got there, but this was there too, all this stuff. It came back. So it's like an elastic band. You stretch over here, yay. And you got all this tension on this elastic band. At some point, it just comes and smacks you in the back again. You're back where you were, just in a new location with a new toy or a new success. Does it make sense? So in seeing that and understanding that and realising that, truly realising that none of those things are going to fix the problem. The pain, the suffering, they're not. And I got to experience that. So I just think a lot of people don't get to experience that. And it wasn't at a high level, it was just the level I thought was going to be enough for me, and it never was. So then I'm sitting there one day and going, okay, what do I do now? Do I start a new 10-year adventure, 5-year adventure, and just start again? I just ran out of things to go for. I just didn't know what was going to do it for me anymore. So I had no options. Like, this was it, do or die. And I fired up that single pointedness that had killed me or hurt me so many times, and went, okay, let's put that on this and see what happens. Because I knew, so I had the fuel and I had the willingness, because I knew I'd had enough of ending up at dead ends, ghost towns. It looks like Fantasy Island or something, but it's a ghost town when you get there. That's what I kept finding, it had turned into a ghost town. Tumbleweed running down the street, and I'm trying to keep it alive, trying to fluff it up. And, it just became obvious. And I don't know if that's forcible or not. I just don't know. I just think it happens or it doesn't. That aspect of it, that drive, yeah. Mm.
So when we start accepting life as it is,
Yes.
does that mean that we stop working hard for the basic structure of life, at least like to be able to survive?
Oh, survival's fine. Survival's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, like that
You can't seek if you're dead.
if we stop chasing anything, then that also prevents us from living at least in the last life so that we can meditate.
Yeah. Well, you want to survive, and it's not the way, I see it. You don't have to have an unhappy life. You can have a nice life. It's hunting the desires and the attachments that's a problem. So it can be my house or my house, right? My car or my car, right? You know what I mean? Or does it make sense? It's what's in it. Is there a gripping in it? That's all. Does that make sense? And on your question on how to, coming back to your original question, is society's not going in the same direction of this, and this is counter to society. Because society is like what you're just saying there, is survival, isn't it? People get over the survival hump, then they go, right, what else can I have? Do you know what I mean? All right, let's start painting walls and doing gardens and building it bigger. Let's get a bigger house and let's get a bigger car and just keep expanding that way. So the secret desire in that expansion is for something bigger than the compressed I. It's just in the wrong direction. It's gone outward, you see. Friends, family, wealth, power. Make sense? So it's a misguided use of the inner desire for truth of home, you see. And to recognise that too. And so the way to get over this, did you say witnessing, or you're finding the back, trying to stay back witnessing? Is that what you said?
I asked, how do I make the presence, the consciousness, stay longer?
Stay longer, yes. Same thing, different words, yes. So that's, the side is going this way and you're trying to stay still in it, or even come this way back home, yeah? But it just keeps grabbing you and pulling your friends and family and everybody and the TV and the bus driver, and everybody's talking about time and somebody going somewhere and the problems and blah, blah, blah. So you're caught in this river, this slow flow river, and you're trying to find truth and it keeps pulling you in, yeah? And then your mind's trained for that flow, yeah? So the best way to do that is a Sangha, and that's what Buddha was talking about. So it's the teacher that's awake, then it's the teachings, right? What's he saying or she saying, yeah? And then it's the group travelling together, because that's how you can hold together, because you're all on the same path, you all have the same mindset, and you're all trying to find home, you're trying to find freedom, yeah? Does that make sense? So you're not in a foreign land when you're communicating with people, and you're not in something trying to take you away, outward. And that's where the Sangha comes in handy too. That's why the Buddha put it so high up as his core teachings. And I agree with him. I think it's important. Because exactly what you said is the problem. That's why he put that together.
So in modern life, in practical life, how do we do it? Because we have our career, we have a life somewhere, and then to get to this Sangha, do you mean we leave everything?
No. I mean, today it's easier than it's been throughout human history, because you can tune into multiple teachers around the world right now via the internet on a conference. So we do. There's lots of teachers do it, but Zoom conferencing, and you can sit at your desk at home and Zoom in and be in a group Sangha and have group chats, and you know what I mean? So you can still be doing whatever you want. And if society or life is determining you're in a certain place, you can have electronic connections these days. And then, it's easier than it's ever been for that. You don't have to move towns, states, cities, right?
So we keep continuing our normal life, normal career, the way we earn our bread, family, everything, and still keeping in touch with this community.
Yeah. You want to have people doing what you're doing. It makes a big difference. It did for me, because I was doing this alone for a long time. Well, my partner at the time was into it, but we went off on a split on what we thought was legit and not legit at some point. So I had that, but just getting into a Sangha was just so helpful, because everybody's on the same path and you learn from the Sangha. So you can have the teacher talking and you're getting communication from him, but you might have people that have been with him for a long time or her for a long time, and they know a lot of the teachings, and they may have been in the same experience of you of the world, and you're talking about something, so that happened to me, and Here's what I did, here's how it worked, here's what I saw, and they're showing you stuff they saw and they learnt, and you're doing the same for them. You might have something you know about that they don't, so there's this whole symbiotic relationship that happens. Does that make sense? And then, you know, like this, I'm having a conversation with somebody, and there's something I say, and you go, wow, that happens to me too, that's in me. Oh, there's the answer to that, great. You know what I mean? And so you end up with these, it's not just this way. It's like this, see? Does that make sense? And then you can often find somebody that's very similar to you and sees the world a similar way, so you can team up a bit and find your way, you know. You know what I mean? Because everybody's a little bit different. Well, you know, if I say something to you, it might not work for him. You know what I mean? And so people make a big mistake there, thinking they can go read like these great spiritual texts, and you're deciding from within you, with all your filters, what's good and what's bad for you in that text. Okay, now you might be heading right down the wrong path, and that's not for you. You're fine there. Do you know what I mean? And then you're taking on these things, which I did a lot of. You're taking on these things that weren't related to you because you've got your own self-view. So a Sangha and a teacher can have an outside view of you to help you see what you can't see. And that's a big game changer. That saves a lot of time. Just that, it's like the expressway. You're off the dirt tracks, wandering around the mountains, and you're on the expressway now. Makes sense? And then you get encouraged, you get confidence. Yeah, because you're having success now, and then you'll see your life start to shift. It was my experience anyway, you know, and I see it a lot. Does that make sense?
Any particular style of meditation or technique you recommend?
Yeah, I do. I won't do it now because it does take a little bit of time, but if you go find my website and find the YouTube channel and just look up Kundalini breath, Google that within my channel, you'll find it there. People have great success with it. Yeah, it's really good. I might rename it because that Kundalini word's getting pretty flogged out, isn't it? It's like God or something now. And a lot of weirdness going on with that word. So anyway, but for now, that's what it's called. Yeah, you should like it. It's very powerful. And it'll help with the noisy mind. It does multiple things. It does multiple things. And you work it out. You tell me what it does. Rather than me tell you. Okay. Yes.
What is the difference between like path of meditation and path of love?
Meditation and love.
Yeah.
What is the difference?
Yeah. Path.
Well, meditation translates as silence. Yeah, it just means silence. So it's meditation practice is silence practice. No, so meditation isn't the act of doing something. Meditation is the result, really. Meditation means silence. So in silence is awareness. Yeah. But awareness, pure awareness, and what's aware of awareness can be actually ruthless. It's very straight and very direct and ruthless. Think samurai. You know samurai? Like you've got an awakened samurai, and they can be ruthless killers. So waking up doesn't mean you're spontaneously the nicest person in the world or anything like that. You can be quite ruthless. And so love is the next step in. So you could say, well, you know, this is like the canvas is love. It is actually the canvas of the movement is love. Does that make sense? So I can say the active side of infinity. The inactive side of infinity is just absolutely ruthless, just still, and there's nothing. It's just zero, not any recognition. And then the active side is this side, and you could say love is the primordial force of that.
How do we like find the love? Like, is it a different path compared to like sitting and meditation? And
well, meditation, silence is the path to love, yeah, because it's in silence that you see. And love is not a doing. See, this is a big misunderstanding, especially in Western culture. Most love you hear about is want or desire or need. So the Spanish have that word, right? Their word for love translates as want, which is probably the more accurate version that most people are doing. It's like they're in relationships and they're locked down, and you must do this and I must do that, and don't change your ways, and you know, there's all these agreements and contracts going on. That's not love. Love has no contracts. So what does that mean? It means in stillness, love appears, not in doing or enacting or pretending or desiring. That being said, you know, when you pick up your little boy or girl or your puppy or your dog and you have that silent moment with them, that's love. Do you know what I mean? Or your partner, it's just silence, stillness, and it's just this quiet, beautiful, gentle vibration there. That's love. So it's attainable. It's everybody, I think, almost everybody anyway, experiences at some point. I'm sure there's some psychopaths out there that don't get that experience, etc. And you know, they didn't choose that. It happened to them. It happened, and but yeah. So it's not this exclusive thing to the awakening process or anything. We can all experience it, but if we've got contracts in there, well, that's not it. That's something else. Although we can have the love, but when the contracts come in, it goes. It disappears. So the less is more when it comes to love. The less you're there, the more love there is. Does that make sense? I think you know what it is. No, you're welcome. Have we got a timekeeper here? How are we going? 2 minutes. Okay, let's go. No, just the time is now. Let's go.
In your experience of awakening, enlightenment, whatever.
Yeah, they're all words, really. It's really just, yeah.
Does it feel like a softening for you? Like
Oh, gosh, yeah.
essence? Or is it like a realization?
Sure, just remove the yaw. You'll be good. So you said moving into your essence. Now just get rid of the yaw.
But it feels like a softening.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the way I explain it a little bit, if you want, you know, the being or the empress, you know, the softest, sweetest, most beautiful empress to live in your, you know, the soft yin, you have to really remove all the sharp edges. Because she gets scared of any sharp edges or movements. Does that make sense? You know, like these coming out and these, especially early on, you have to be very, very quiet and very still. Or it just becomes a transient experience instead of an abiding experience. And that's where the practice is, and that's where the training is, and that's why people sat with Ramana for years, Maharishi and different teachers, whereas today everyone goes, well, I know Ramana, I read his book, and yeah, just waiting. You know, it doesn't work like that, you know. It doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. The evidence isn't there. But yeah, it's absolutely a softening. Yeah, it's look, one of the words you'll hear used is beauty, and I think it's a pretty good word. It's just feel beauty. You know, beauty's soft, isn't it? Does that make sense? Yeah. You know, when you see something really beautiful, what happens? Just a silent. You know, unless you, oh, look how beautiful that is, Barry. You know, like if you don't do that, you just stay with it. You can experience. That might be the 7th best sunset I've seen this year. No, just be quiet and enjoy. Yeah, it's time. Okay, it was fun. I'd like to stay longer, but these guys are going to gigs and they're wonderful. So.